The James Show Podcast.
For some people, it's just hard. It's hard for them to say nice things about the guy they've been calling literally Hitler for the last 9 years or whatever. I get that. But let's go ahead and give some credit where credit's due. Actually, the media has been handling this generally well. In fact, that was something Trump had mentioned yesterday at the peace deal table.
I want to thank the media for you've been so respectful on this deal. You know the importance of the deal, and I really... it was so pleasant to watch. I was on the plane for quite a while listening to the various newscasts, and they were all fair. They were talking about how incredible this is. This is an incredible day for the world, let alone the Middle East. So I just wanted to thank the media. They really treated it with respect. I wish you could be like that on other things, but that's perhaps too much to ask for. But on this, tremendous, everybody feels the same. Just tremendous respect, and we appreciate it very much. Can we get the documents, please?
Wow. So look at this. We have, for at least 4 straight days now, peace in the Middle East. Wow. We've got the federal government about 20% shut down. That's going pretty good. Trump saying nice things about the media. The Cowboys should be 0-6. They managed to win 2 of them with this terrible defense. We're having a great fall, aren't we? So, in my attempt to bring you, both sides, so what is the media saying? What does that sound like? I didn't feel like going and grabbing you the most sensational, ridiculous takes from MSNBC and CNN. I wanted to show you what a little bit more, at least an attempt to be middle of the road news outlet sounds like. Now, ABC News, definitely left of the center. So listen to the tortured way Mary Bruce, their reporter, has to talk about this. Now, she'll admit that we have a peace deal, but there's also a long ways to go. And it starts out with her kind of laughing at the idea. It's like, oh, you can see Trump just put himself up front like he did anything. Like he's just like he all of a sudden had anything to do with this. He's just taking credit. But look, if this is as bad as it gets, this is actually really good. I'm not saying this is an honest take, and I'm not saying this is fair, but this is about as fair. This is fairer than we've come to expect. How about that?
And there is no question President Trump is taking ownership in many ways of this. It was remarkable to see him standing there greeting all of the leaders, shaking everyone's hands.
Yeah, he's taking ownership of this. Like he wasn't the driving force behind the negotiations. Like he wasn't the one who put it together. No, now he's just, it makes it sound like other people did the work. And he's just coming and taking ownership. But it's still not that bad. Like, what's he doing over here shaking hands and stuff? I was under the impression he was one of the guys that really pushed this along and kind of deserves some credit for it. Why would that be a weird thing? And then the reluctancy in her voice where she has to say, yeah, there's peace, but what about this? But what about this? But what about this? What about this? Just because she can't report just good stuff and leave it at that. There always has to be the follow-up, I guess.
So much of this will come down to these really, detailed, thorny issues. Who is going to pay? Who's going to put up forces to help to bring about security within Gaza, just so that you can get to the point of being able to rebuild? What happens to the people of Gaza who, have said it has been written in this 20-point peace plan? And this was a bit of a shift for the president, because you recall months ago, in fact, I recall that first meeting with Netanyahu in the Oval Office where President Trump stunned many by saying the Palestinians would have to leave Gaza. Now in this 20-point peace plan, quite the opposite tone. It says that they're being encouraged to stay. And I pushed the president on this point late last week, just asking him to clarify. Can he guarantee that no one will be forced to leave? And he said yes, Palestinians will be able to stay in Gaza. But of course, he has also noted that it is very difficult, given the conditions there, to imagine how they will be able to live through this rebuilding process. So there are just a lot of basic nuts and bolts logistical questions about how you are going to get to a point of peace.
You know what? I'll take it. There is a whole lot of, cautious optimism. It wasn't even cautious optimism. It was just caution. I'll take it. That's about as good as it's going to get. Half the internet is on View Watch right now because one of the co-hosts of The View, Alyssa Farah, made a promise. I think this was in January. I don't know. This is being passed around. I must have seen it 10 times before I started the show today. This is Alyssa Fair making a promise back in January.
My point when I say I'm not going to be apocalyptic, it's not changing a tune. It's not making every single thing a 5-alarm fire. Yeah. If he does good, if he gets the Israeli hostages out, I promise I will wear a MAGA hat for one day on the show and say, thank you for doing it. Yeah. I know she'll knock it right off my head. But like you have to be able to cheer for wins when they happen and then call out relentlessly the wrongdoing. Well,
you hear that miserable punk next to her, Sonny Austin? Don't do that. Please don't do that. Oh, yeah, God forbid we get the hostages out and someone has to wear a MAGA hat for an episode. No, it'd be worth it for the hostages to stay in captivity under Hamas. And Sonny Austin, please don't do that. Oh, no. I'd be like, look, I'd wear a chicken suit if it got the hostages out, if it helped. Yeah, do whatever, but no, don't make Trump look human or like something that's anything other than literally Hitler. Y'all calm down. So far, it's working. And I was actually planning, because it might sound like I'm just making this up on the spot, but I already know what I'm going to do a couple days out. I was expecting today for me to be doing the countdown on when we're going to get the last hostages out. I thought they were going to slow walk this, if they were going to do it at all. There's a lot of speculation if they were even going to follow through on releasing the hostages, because once the hostages are out, they have no more bargaining chips. What's to keep them from being carpet bombed? Absolutely nothing. And if someone was really trying to genocide you, wouldn't that be happening now? So yes and yes. So we do. We have the hostages out. There's no carpet bombing. Look at this. The peace deal is on schedule. It's about some spending that was cut in the one big beautiful bill. Some spending that was cut from some of the Doge endeavors, most notably USAID and whatnot. And so when we talk about, the things that the Democrats are adding back to the bill, it's not like they went through this line by line and they're like, each one of these programs I think should be added back. They just want to restore the previous regime without any specifics. Just, hey, whatever got cut, just put it back in. Whatever that is, let's just put it back in. So, we are your new home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins here on WBAP. They're on weekdays from 11 to 2. And so while I was stuffing my fat face with lunch, I was listening to this fantastic show. And they cracked me up and showed me like a little soundbite I had missed. So I'm going to give you the 2 minutes, really just, 2 minutes of Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. And then I was like, man, I hadn't seen that soundbite anywhere. And I went back and I got the whole thing. And I'm going to play you a little more context to it. So you'll get the parts that they missed. But first, this was around lunchtime today.
Mentioned earlier today, this is what the Democrats want to reopen.
And they would send $500 million to liberal news outlets by refunding the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. It would also restore up to $5 billion of American taxpayer funds for wasteful spending for international projects. Here's a couple of examples. This is in their legislation, their counterproposal on the CR to keep the lights open. This is what they want to do. They want to spend $24.6 million of your hard-earned dollars as a taxpayer for climate resilience in Honduras.
Pause. You guys go with that? Climate resilience in Honduras, that seems pretty important.
No.
Okay.
They want to spend $13.4 million for civic engagement in Zimbabwe.
No.
What about the poor people in Zimbabwe, Scott?
What does that mean?
Civic engagement?
Yeah, what does that mean? Civic engagement. What is that?
That would mean leftist policies. Usually, or somebody's just getting the money.
Yeah,
somebody's being funneled to somebody.
Organizing bingo nights where everybody can participate. What is that? It's a neighborhood watch.
Where you watch people just pass out checks.
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
Yes.
All right, next.
They want to send $3.9 million for LGBTQI plus democracy grants in the Western Balkans.
Okay. LGBTQI. What's the I?
Intersex, which is actually a medical condition, which is very weird that they've included that into the rainbow cult.
Got it. And then plus just means anything else you come up with.
Pick one.
All right. Democracy grant. What does that mean, David? Your vast experience in the news industry, what is that?
That means, again, someone's cousin is making a lot of money.
Got it.
Name Grant.
Yes.
All right. Anything else, Speaker?
They want to spend $2.9 million of your dollars for desert locust risk reduction in the Horn of Africa.
Well, that's a heck of a deal, the desert locust reduction.
Yes. No, locusts are problematic, In
Africa. Okay. Big deal, I guess.
And $2 million for, quote, organizing for feminist democratic principles in Africa.
Okay. Feminist democratic principles in Africa. How would you describe that, David?
Trying to get women and leadership roles, I guess.
Okay. All right.
Sounds good to me.
All right, so that was Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. And they were just walking through one soundbite from Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. He did a press conference today with a few other people that I didn't recognize at all, to be honest. And I was thinking maybe they had pulled that together from different parts of the speech and just lined them all up to make it sound super ridiculous. Here it is, unedited. Now he's just rolling through the list. It really is that silly.
And they would send $500 million to liberal news outlets by refunding the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. It would also restore up to $5 billion of American taxpayer funds for wasteful spending for international projects. Here's a couple of examples. This is in their legislation, their counterproposal on the CR to keep the lights open. This is what they want to do. They want to spend $24.6 million of your hard-earned dollars as a taxpayer for climate resilience in Honduras. They want to spend $13.4 million for civic engagement in Zimbabwe. They want to send $3.9 million for LGBTQI plus democracy grants in the Western Balkans. They want to spend $2.9 million of your dollars for desert locust risk reduction in the Horn of Africa. And $2 million for, quote, organizing for feminist democratic principles in Africa. We are not doing that.
Yeah, I hope we're not doing that. But, Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins, they were making some jokes in there that were funny because the level of truth of them is pretty profound when they were saying, who even does this? Like, how would you do that? Who would this employ? And the joke was lefty activist. And the reason that's funny is because, oh my God, that is so true. And then he says, well, who gets that contract? And he's like, well, somebody's cousin. Yeah, you're exactly right. Exactly. That's what all of these programs are. You know how I know? Libertarians think that's the dumbest thing in the world to dedicate your life to making a global warming coloring book for Mauritania or whatever's in there. We would never do that. We would never advocate for bike lanes. Who do you think is getting all these jobs in like Title IX offices and DEI offices? They're all 100% political activists. And if they weren't political activists before, they sure as heck are now. Because you get paid the same at your job whether or not you go vote or whether or not who you vote for. These people's lives depend on their vote. Your job, your livelihood, like mine, I've got to get ratings. I've got to get revenue. If you're on the floor below me, you've got to get some sales. If you're in the lumber business, you got to cut down some trees or whittle them down and sell some sticks. But if you are the global warming coloring book for Mauritania guy, does it matter how many coloring books you distribute? Does it matter how much global warming increases or decreases? Does anything matter other than Team Blue either winning the next election or being so calcified into the deep state that even if you don't win the next election, you can skate through because you just get thrown back in with the baby and the bathwater when they try and put the spending bill back together at the next government shutdown? That's what this is really all about. All right, so if it's written, it's libel. If it's spoken, it's slander. What happens if it's smoke signals? I'm James Parker. It's The James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Talking about Elizabeth Warren here, who's making the case that there's no such thing as illegals getting money from Medicaid. They're not getting taxpayer-funded health care. That's just a lie. It's written into the law. It's written into the law. So I have Elizabeth Warren in a interview here recently. I think this was over the weekend. And this is being passed around because someone added Ro Khanna to the end of it. And he's another Democrat congressman who in another interview, probably about the same time Elizabeth Warren's lying to your face, was saying the truth. Well, oh yeah, I mean, if you count like the, emergency care that illegals get when they go in the emergency room and they can't pay the bill and someone gets stuck with it. Well, I mean, I guess in that instance, you could say illegals get Medicaid, but so here it is. They're just married back to back and for your enjoyment.
Understand, the only thing that Republicans are saying now about health care is Democrats want to give it to undocumented immigrants, which is a lie. The law is perfectly clear. No undocumented immigrants get any access to Medicaid. They get no access to ACA supplements. None, zero, zip.
We have an emergency Medicaid program. And I guess if you mean that when you fund Medicaid, when you fund the Affordable Care Act, that you're saying you're funding some of it for undocumented people who are showing up in emergency situations, then yeah, you're funding that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to count every time illegals get taxpayer-funded health care through Medicaid, then yeah, they're getting taxpayer-funded health care through Medicaid, I guess. Also, when we play the soundbite from the Democrat primary debate in 2020, where the moderator asked all the candidates to raise your hand if you're cool with taxpayer-funded health care for illegals, I believe Elizabeth Warren's in this group.
A lot of you have been talking tonight about these government health care plans that you've proposed in one form or another. This is a show of hands question, and hold them up for a moment so people can see. Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants. Okay, let me start with you, Mayor Buttigieg. Why?
So that's every candidate, and then everyone in the crowd is cheering it on like, yeah, you better say that, because we're all on board with it. So all the candidates agree, all the political factions agree, from the Bernie Sanders wing to the Pete Buttigieg wing to the Joe Biden wing. So you got the upstarts, the news, the letter people, you've got the old guard, the geezer that's running around like a human Roomba. Everyone agreed on it. Everyone in the audience agreed on it. The moderator asked it like it was a done deal. And then here in 2025, it's like, oh, how dare you even claim that one of us would want health care from taxpayer dollars to go to illegals? Oh my goodness. Why would you make up such vicious lies? But that's all they do is lie. So now that we have it doubly sealed, let's go back and let's hear just Elizabeth Warren again, just lying her little head off.
Understand, the only thing that Republicans are saying now about health care is Democrats want to give it to undocumented immigrants, which is a lie.
And that's not the only thing we're saying. So that's another. The only thing they're saying about it. No. I'm saying a lot of other things. I'm saying we need to repeal Obamacare too. I am sure that there's a lot of other people who are on board. You're probably on board with that too. No, that's not the only thing we're talking about. We're also talking about the Obamacare subsidies for people who are not just here legally, but natural-born citizens. Because we have other sound bites where people from CNN or who else is crying about, oh my goodness, well, if you take these subsidies away, how's a 60-year-old couple making $85,000 a year going to make it without these subsidies? So look, they're talking about it.
Imagine an older couple out there who's making $85,000 a year. That's not billionaires or anything like that, but that's a higher earner in this case. Here's their current premium, $7,225 per year. That's 8.5% of their income. That's like
yeah. But the point being, they're talking about that. They're talking about the work requirements being added back to Medicaid, to where, hey, if you're going to get it, you got to lift a finger, and we'll just make it half of what Bill Clinton asked you to do in the 90s. Remember when we had that big welfare reform, actually balanced the budget we cut so much? Wasn't that kind of nice? So, I mean, the whole thing is full of lies. The only thing they're saying about health care. No, it's not the only thing we're saying about health care. And plus, the thing you say after that is a lie anyway. Yes, you do want it for illegals. This is Stephen Weatherford. You're on WBAP. Hey, Steve.
Hey, sir. I would just ask the Democrats in the Senate and the House to take one day, fashion a bill that says no benefits to illegal aliens, and everybody in the world will come back right quick and vote it in power.
Well, yeah, you're bringing up another logical fallacy. If it's already illegal, then why are you fighting it, right? Then why would you fight its ban if it doesn't exist?
I'm just calling them on their lip service.
Exactly. No, you're totally right to do so. It's the same thing that was said about like critical race theory or whatever. It's like, that's not even being taught in schools. Then why are you fighting banning it?
Yeah, they're just lipping off, have them put it in writing as a new bill, and the Republicans everywhere and the Democrats can all vote for it. No benefits to illegal aliens.
How many of these people would go home immediately if there was no benefits? And when I say no benefits, I mean no public school. I mean no benefits, no food stamps, no Medicare, no Medicaid, no Social Security. And I know there's a lot of people saying, well, they can't get that stuff anyway. Well, some of them are. And if they're not, then why would you fight a ban on it?
I love that even better. call the Democrats out on their lip service bull and tell them, put it on writing. We'll show up and vote on it on Thursday this week. Yeah. Nothing free for illegal immigrants.
Well, I'll make an exception. They can still use DART because that's hell on earth. I mean, that'll make them want to go home even faster if they have to ride around on DART. Thank you very much, Stephen Weatherford. In fact, that's coming up next. Did you hear about the latest news on DART? They've been getting killed. Their budgets are wrecked. They're racking up debt. They're cutting service. There's crime all over the place. The customers are not happy. Ridership's down, and they just gave themselves all giant bonuses for doing such a good job at your expense. In my quest to make the world a better place, one thing that I would do in our backyard that could just immediately have a positive impact is get rid of DART. I don't know if you realize how bad DART's record has been your entire life. And I understand why you don't know. Because most of the news outlets around here, whatever comes up about DART, hey, that's great. Hey, it's expanding. This is a good thing. Hey, why don't we take this terrible failure and build one all the way to Houston? Yeah, that'll be great. Everything gets cheered. Let's review, though. We learned in a breakdown that we saw in the Dallas Express from Dennis McQuistion earlier this year that when DART was passed by Dallas voters in 1983, this is what was promised DART was supposed to look like now. There was only supposed to be 25 to 35 employees. There are 3,800 employees. You understand that? 50% of the operating costs were supposed to be covered by the fares that were charged to the riders. Today, the fare box just covers 10% of salaries. Just salaries. There's supposed to be 147 miles of light rail by 2010. We only have 93 and it's 2025. There was supposed to be no borrowed money. It was never supposed to go into debt. It was never supposed to take federal government subsidies. Yet now we owe $3.8 billion and counting. And they've already received billions in federal government subsidies. And they're still in the hole that far. It was also supposed to reduce traffic congestion. We all get a good laugh at that. And now, to make matters worse, if you go to Dallas Express today, you can see Logan Washburn's review on how they just thought that they're doing such a good job. They gave themselves all giant bonuses. So now I have to have him on. Logan Washburn, welcome back to the James Show. Thank you for pointing this out because I didn't see this story anywhere else. DART, Dallas Area Rapid Transit executives just paid themselves $747,000 in bonuses. How did this even happen, Logan?
Hi, James. Well, thank you for having me on the show. So we've understood for a while now that while DART's outcomes are less than optimal, they have kind of maintained a rigid bureaucracy behind the scenes. So I sent in a public records request and found that from 2023 to 2024, just a portion of their executive staff received a total of more than $747,000 in bonuses. Now, this sounds like a lot, and it is, but the way that they distribute this is sort of unlikely. They have so many executive staff members that they're each getting like you could say from like 10 to 40,000-ish a year, but then when it adds up, it's a massive number. And so it's crazy. But this has picked up a lot recently, and it's just going on without accountability. Well, and then in your report down here, another number that I think the people listening would be quite interested in is the CEO of DART. She's getting $64,000 in bonuses on top of her regular salary of $346,000. Yes. So that brings her compensation just with these two factors over $400,000, like $410,000. Wow, that's a good gig. Yeah, I know. And that's another thing about the DART executives is they all generally have pretty solid starting salaries, generally in the six figures. And then you add these 10,000-ish to 40,000 per year salaries on top of that. And it comes out to a pretty sum of money. And again, this is all on top of the operating costs and at the same time as they made these recent service cuts because they say they don't have enough funding. Well, a lot of the funding is going to their executive staff.
Yeah, clearly it's going to the executive staff. Now, what we're having, though, on top of this is DART is in their cutting era, to use the popular nomenclature of the time, the parlance of our times. Yeah, DART is not expanding services. There's no reason why they should get bonus because they've had an explosion of ridership, or because they've had a great safety record, or because they've expanded service. They're doing the opposite. They're actually in a time of contraction. So what on earth are these bonuses based on, Logan?
So I spoke to an individual who's formerly high-ranking on the DART board. He didn't want to be identified exactly by the name, but he sort of explained this to me and said, look, this is technically based on performance, but it's very rare you're ever going to see someone denied a bonus based upon poor performance. So essentially it's, all but guaranteed. And it is in effect, not based on performance, and it's just a reliable bonus that these people can rely on.
Yeah, well, clearly it's not based on performance, and I wouldn't know any of this if not for your great work. This is Logan Washburn, DallasExpress.com. Great report. I invite everyone to go read it. Thank you for your work, Logan.
Thank you for having me on the show. It's great talking to you.
See, this is what I'm talking about. When I say I hate DART and I want it to go away, I think a lot of people think I'm crazy because they've just never been presented with this idea before. Every time they've turned on the TV or picked up a newspaper or went to a website or some sort of stream online, everyone told them it was great. But I think if you've been listening to the James Show for a while, or really just WBAP for a while, you're so on board with this. It's just, can we get everyone else on board? Because this is such an unnecessary waste of money, and I can't wait for it to go away. Coming up next on the James Show, will there be another pandemic? Fauci says, of course. You're going to hear him say it next on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
The James Show Podcast.